Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 2. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode, or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? Having gone from one extreme of the quality scale to the other, we find ourselves in generally less choppy water with a few generally entertaining episodes, although there are still issues aplenty to poke at. One that arguably has the fewest is Killer. It definitely isn't the one with the most issues, that's coming up next. Killer was the first episode I ever saw that was shown as a television repeat, not off one of the two videos we had bought my mum for various Christmases. It revolves around a killer virus that predictably causes a rather unpleasant and quick death with an abundance of symptoms and an excuse for the makeup department to prove they're not as awful as the BBC budget would force them to be perceived as. The other plot, which I guess is the side plot, although it's pretty centralised along with the Blake 7 measles narrative, is with Avon and Villa as they try to work with, and let's face it, coerce and threaten Avon's former associate into obtaining some magic crystal that will help them crack Federation codes. Nearly every sci-fi series will have at least one disease episode, usually more than a couple with the longer running series, and Blake 7 has at least one more deadly disease in the pipeline after this one. This one is no less engaging, however, and in addition to being released upon the base in an interesting way, the suggested background, the aliens that I've never seen, only speculated at, is interesting and rather creepy, and the 3 or maybe 4 or even 5 guest parts we see are all well acted and well-rounded characters. The dialogue is sufficiently sharp, as one would expect for Blake 7, and the guest stars get to enjoy a few waspish exchanges for their part. It's also a bonus to learn more about Avon's past and the chap who was evidently involved in his audacious theft, if it had worked, who shows that Avon isn't the most self-interested, cold, backstabbing and callous individual in the galaxy, at least not when compared to his former partner in crime. My favourite character in this episode, however, is not Tynus, although Ronald Lacey plays the part superbly. It's Paul Daneman's Dr. Bellfire, the dry-witted, relaxed man who comes across as someone we've known for ages. It's a pity that it's Blake who seems to have all the answers to the questions, and Bellfire just looks on in bemusement.
I think it had been adapted.
What?
I think she was picking up emanations from a cybernetic implant.
Virology's my field, Alfred. I'm not following you.
I presume the station is air-conditioned.
Yes, right.
Shut it down.
In fact, other characters also get to show up Dr. Bellfire and tell him what's going on as opposed to it being the other way around.
Destroying the memory?
The memory?
What, just the memory?
No, it's the first thing.
But still, he's a good character. I also share Tynus' curiosity as to why such an eminent scientist would choose to work at such a remote and unimportant base, but clearly the reason was unimportant to the plot, and it wasn't important enough an issue for me to greatly enjoy the character. No, my issues concentrate more on how certain aspects of the episode are presented, or resolved, or revealed. For starters, while I found the idea of an ancient Earth ship with a long-lost, albeit long-dead crew being the bearer of bad viruses interesting, I found it odd that Dr. Weiler couldn't hear the ECG scan beeping away when everyone else could, even though he's in the same room as it.
My God, look!
Weiler? You've got brain life.
If that wasn't bad enough, seeing the animated corpse do its strangling thing was in a bit of dodgy mummy territory. It wasn't terrible, but I can see a few too many people cracking up at the image. I don't give any points to the way Villa finds the message from Tynus to Servalan. That was dated for the 70s, never mind the 21st century, and never mind the distant future that Blake 7 is supposed to be set in. Again, it's not terrible, it's just a bit naff. The costumes are hilariously bad. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Men are actually Michelin Men costumes, and the others look like they've just had brown shiny foam folded over their shoulders, because that's almost certainly what it is. This was also very much the beginning of the end for any meaningful away-teamed contribution from the female characters for the next few episodes. It kind of started in Pressure Point, as Jenna wasn't nearly as involved as the rest of them. It didn't count in Trial, as only Blake teleported anywhere. But here is where we start to notice it, and especially for Callie. It had been a while since Horizon, the last time she left the Liberator. It would be a long time before she would leave the Liberator again. This is a pity, as I have always cited Blake 7 for the positive image and portrayal of its female characters. This rather large chunk of Season 2, we mostly have to look to Servalan for that portrayal. It's also been mentioned in other reviews the fact that at the end, Belfire has actually managed to develop an anti-serum for the plague, and communicates up to Blake this fact, and then doesn't tell him what it is. Well, he was going to, but then decided to go into the history of the virus before actually reading out the formula. This has been likened to people in strong positions like doctors or scientists or politicians who are in love with the sound of their own voice and want to build up the suspense to their latest achievement. Now, I personally don't mind this that much, as it provides some more information on the virus, although I won't lie, it crossed my mind. And also Blake stops him from reading out the anti-serum formula for a few more seconds to confirm something Belfire has already told us. It's as if Belfire is hoping to get a good grade from Blake for his virus essay, and Blake is actually critiquing it. Anyway, before we get too far into the formula, Belfire succumbs to the virus and dies, pushing his body back in his lean-back seat. A bit of a chilling ending. In spite of the anti-serum, everyone on the base perishes. Not a huge deal, it's a Federation base after all, as Jenna points out. But as Blake points out, they're human, and these particular Federation humans are portrayed in a more positive, less evil light. The scientists are, anyway. I thought the way Colin Farrell's Gamble shows his fear when describing the symptoms of the virus was excellent acting, making us greatly sympathise with the plight they all face.
In the motor centre, and there's a rapid rise in temperature resulting in fulminating blisters all over the body, and then the heart packs up.
Are the Viren filters all activated?
We should be getting the first test results through any minute now.
And while we may have expected these deaths to occur, it's not exactly fun to watch. Getting back to the formula, I did wonder if one of the Liberator gang could have teleported down in protective gear and retrieved it from Belfire's desk. Not that they would know for sure it had been written out and is actually sitting on the desk, but it would appear to be a reasonable assumption. Not that the Liberator crew would need to concern themselves about protective gear, as despite spending 10 hours or more in the plague-infested base and actually watching infected individuals crawling on the floor only a few yards away, they never come close to getting infected. And apart from an inevitable monologue from Villa about his trepidation of the virus, none of them seem too concerned about the possibility of getting infected.
Well, there aren't millions here, so don't worry about it.
Well, I'm here and I do worry about it. I don't like bugs. You can't hear them, you can't see them, you can't feel them, and suddenly you're dead.
We'll be out of here in a few minutes. Get back to the corridor.
So, a very enjoyable episode, but nothing hugely special in itself, and several irritating aspects make it stand out less than perhaps it deserves. So, a regretful 1-star marking from me. I appreciate others like this episode a hell of a lot more, as do I, but it still has enough issues with it to irk me. I still recommend you see it though, of course. And as I have stated previously, there is far worse round the corner. That concludes my review on Killer. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And I was wondering, Dr. Weiler, if you would consider perhaps getting a hearing aid, as I think you might have a few problems with your hearing.
That's quite impossible.
Should have listened to me. Bye.